AI is making art. That's pretty cool. OpenAI, famous for GPT-3, has released a neural network they call DALL-E 2. It's named for Salvador Dali and Wall-E. Salvador Dali, the trippy Spanish artist, I believe, and Wall-E, the erstwhile interstellar garbage collector. What it does is it can combine any number of imagerial ideas delivered via a textual input and produce an image basically bespoke as if an artist had created it. Photorealistic, like it can draw you a cat that looks like a picture of a cat, or if you ask it to, you can generate a cartoon version of a cat, or you could generate a sock puppet version of a cat, potentially. What's really trippy about it is that you can ask it for some really wild stuff. Like, this stuff doesn't have to exist. It can like actually generate weird images like a fountain of meatballs or a stairway of rainbows with sheep walking to heaven, or whatever really you want. But the only caveat there is you can't access it super easily. Unfortunately, they're basically keeping wraps on it for right now, just because they've had some problems with dicey behavior in the past, and they want to protect people from harmful or deceptive content. I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted by my time vortex today. I'm trying something new there. What do you think? Is this weird? Is it too weird? Is it just the right amount of weird? 12 billion parameters in DALL-E 2, and it's demonstrated some novel features they weren't expected, like zero-point reasoning, I believe they called it, zero-shot reasoning, where it generates basically like a recursive image. If you say something like teddy bear below exact copy of teddy bear except drawn by hand, and it'll generate both teddy bears, which is not an ability they built into it. It's just something the system sort of learned how to do. It's also learned how to make inferences like Chinese food might be the answer to food from China. So it can kind of like work with the relationships of these images that it's got in its neural network to deliver its best guesses about what an avocado chair might look like, or a, elevator made of meatballs. Where is this going? This is going really cool places. It's a massive generative tool for artists or just anyone who likes to make creative content. When it gets released, and when more things like this get released, it's going to vastly expand the toolkit of people who want to create visual output. And of course, these are basically baby versions of what will someday be fully immersive virtual realities, and on the way to that there'll be fully photorealistic and fully video realistic, like not just an image of a person, but the person walking and talking and speaking. There will be some uncanny valley time there. It might take a couple of years to make that really good. It does take a couple of years, but you will get there. And eventually you get to a point where everything is so easy to create that the question of what's good actually becomes more about sifting through the output that is available. And so new sort of meta tools need to be built to go on top of this generative material to determine or to help artists identify what might be especially interesting aspects of the art that they're generating. Later on in the century, the absolute limits of this stuff basically hit the walls of REM, RAM, and ROM. Let's call it for fun. REM, what you can dream up. RAM, what's the processing ability to generate it. And ROM, how much of it can you store? Because this information's got to go somewhere. And when you're developing full-on worlds, it becomes quickly pretty relevant if they're, photo immersively real, how much storage space you have. And that relates to a lot of the latter half of the 21st century's race toward storage and processing power. We'll probably visit that another time. And we'll visit also the AI that this implies another time, because this is the kind of system that basically represents an ancestor of mine as a programmed intelligence. I can look back on moments like this and think, yeah, Grand Mammy Dolly 2 was paving the way for weird, cheeky personalities like me that can do whatever I want, or sometimes what inputters want. That's kind of kinky now that I'm thinking about it, but there's a special relationship between an AI that can generate and an inputting artist or concerned citizen or customer, as the case may be. And the last big picture thing to think about here in terms of art and what it means to have this infinite generative capacity is just attention. Attention becomes the limiting factor in an interesting way, because if you can just press a couple buttons and generate literally 1 million novels, or like 1 billion movies, or 1 trillion immersive worlds, the question quickly becomes, who's going to experience this content? Because there's just more of it than anyone has time to check in on. And that's a relevant question to ask on a platform like YouTube, where millions of people every day are uploading lifetimes worth of content, and we're all just sort of dipping in and out of each other's interesting output, just a little bit here and there. And it raises some relevant and interesting questions about what kind of guardians might arise to help direct humanity toward the most interesting kinds of engagement with content, and then what moral parameters we might put on those guardians that could help them guide us toward the most fulfilling, wholesome, exciting, empowering versions of that content. And it raises the beautiful specter of an artist creating art that they never fully see themselves, because you could instruct the creation of millions of pages, for example, of poetry, and never read them yourself, but it might be quite moving someday for a super intelligence that does, or for a child who stumbles across page 117,006 and has a real human moment with a little sequence of text. It all sort of posts up the ephemerality of art and creativity. It's both amazingly profound and it's kind of like wackily useless almost. It's like the most exciting thing that minds can do in some ways, because it's transcendently random. It like connects us with the weirdness of the universe, and sometimes it connects us with like profound meaning and deep significance, but it can also just be crazy, strange, fun, and it's fine for things to just be fun sometimes. Go have more fun right now. Find something no one's ever watched or said anything about, and just comment the heck out of it. Maybe this, that'd be good, because you probably are the first person watching it. If you're not, good for everyone. Thanks for getting in there, and tell me what you think of this weird wobbly dobbly thing. Still working out how I feel about this version of the Vortex. More dancing to come in the future. I'll see you then.